Hey everyone, this is Nitreg from nitreg.com, and today I'm going to be doing a four-tabling session of 20NL unminted poker. A primary goal of this session is just to go ahead and basically try to see if I can get high definition YouTube working. That way, hopefully you guys can see what's going on, all the stats and stuff. I have a little bit of overlap on the tables, as you can see, and that's just basically so the tables are just slightly bigger and you guys can see them a little bit better. I'm not sure if it'll help, but we'll see. Anyway, on the bottom right table, I think I isolated that hand. I can't 100% remember. I might have opened it, even though it's kind of like a little loose open. But I flopped pretty well. I have the second nut flush, and I've got a gut shot. So I'm pretty happy with my hand. It's just definitely going to be a hand that I'm going to be c-betting a lot. The bottom left table, I believe I isolated this guy, and I just stabbed to try to take it down. I'm sorry, I ISO raised him pre-flop, and I tried to stab to take it down, and he appears to be pretty crazy, just shoving all over. So probably stop isolating him if he starts shoving pre-flop, and I'll probably stop c-betting if he keeps like shoving on the flop. Basically, just like bet and call it off when I have pairs, like strong pairs and stuff. Jack 9 offsuit, there's an argument for limping on the button, but I just go ahead and fold it. It's not that strong, it's not suited, and it's basically kind of not really that connected either. You could say, or you could argue that I do have position, so, you know, I think that's okay, but I like to just kind of fold it also, just because I didn't put any money in. The bottom left here, that's that crazy guy who just, he prior to this, he had been like going nuts and check shoving and just the guy was like going insane. So I'm basically just gonna wait for a pair and try to stack them. Just to give you guys a little update, the green letters mean that the players are probably going to be pretty bad. I'm going to be making lots of money off of those players. The orange are kind of just like regular poker players that play quite a lot, and they're going to be fairly decent and not make too many mistakes. So I'm usually not gunning for those guys. I'm not sure if I see any pink on here, but there's kind of like this pinkish color, and that's players who are basically kind of in between. You know, they're not that good, but they don't have like that big of leaks where they're just like spewing money all over the place. So basically, I'm going after guys that have a little green color next to them. So yeah, I'm really hoping that this works so I can continue doing this for you guys. I really like doing these sorts of videos for grinderschool.com, which I go ahead and coach and do videos for. But I also want to test it out so I can, you know, start applying some concepts in real life to show you guys. Nines are just I'm going to open, and then the fours. Normally I fold that, but this guy steals 47% overall, and he only made it a min-raise, and I have the guy as being a fish that's on my left, so I feel that if I hit a 4, I'm going to get quite a bit of money. You know, the guy on AJF is not going to have a hand that often, so if I do hit a 4, I'm probably not going to get paid off too much, so that's usually why we fold. But the thing is, he does c-bet 69%, and he does barrel. He can definitely like barrel as bluffs quite a bit. So I'm fairly confident if I hit a 4, I'm gonna at least get some money, and then if the fish is in there, that's basically why I'm calling, because he'll probably be putting in tons of money in as well. So I had a set here. It's important to note not to like check raise here. I know a lot of people do that, but when you check raise, you're not really representing anything other than a bluff or basically sets. I mean, I'm not gonna have a hand like 7-4 or 2-7 or anything like that in my range, and people just don't play like pocket eights like this or something like that. So I don't know, if I check raise here, he's pretty much going to fold everything. Remember, his range is really wide. we don't really want to be pushing him too hard because he just doesn't have anything all that often. So the whole premise of calling preflop was just because we thought that this guy was going to c-bet a lot and then start barreling off turn and river bets. Especially on a 7 high board, there's going to be a ton of turn cards that are going to be overcards where he can potentially bluff since his range is so wide. Pocket nines on the top right. I isolated this guy and I hit a set, which is awesome. So I'm just going to be betting pretty huge, and I'm going to try to get a lot of money out of this guy. Obviously, just basically bet big because he doesn't seem too good. The ace 10 in the bottom left. I went ahead and 3-bet preflop, just because it's basically a squeeze. Like, the guy has a super wide range, and I actually think ace 10 suited is ahead. And I kind of want to get isolated with him if he does come along, but I'm also really happy if he folds as well. And then this type of board, I have a gut shot, so it's not like the best board in the world, but I feel like I need to c-bet here, and not c-bet too big, just because he doesn't have that much money behind him. I think if I bet like 340 or bet like $5, it's probably going to do about the same thing. So if I bet like $5, it's going to suck because he'll shove for like $8, and I'll have to fold. But if I bet like 3 something and then he shoves, it's like an easy fold. So basically, I just don't want to give him the it's basically just free money for him. With my entire range, I just want to be betting that small amount because I can bet that small amount and then shove the turn if he doesn't shove himself. It gives me a cheaper price on the bluff. So on the top left here, I figured the queen would be a really good obvious card to barrel on the turn, or on the turn as a bluff. Assuming that he was bluffing. He didn't take a stab at it though. So on the river here, I figured that this is like super obvious. Like, his aggression factor is 2.8, which is fairly high. I'm pretty sure he's gonna stab that king, almost with his entire range. So, I just went ahead and checked. Like, my range looks super weak, and my goal is to go for a check raise because I'm pretty sure he's gonna be betting here a lot. And the bet raise size should be kind of big, maybe like upper fives, like 580 or something. I made it a little small. I would prefer to make it a little bit bigger than this, just because he's not going to have much, but the time he does have like King X or 2 pair or another set or something like that, I guess maybe not a set, he's just going to like call no matter what, I think. My line looks kind of like super fishy, but I don't know. I ended up making it a little smaller, and he called off. He had 2 pair. I'm kind of surprised. I guess his play is fine. If he jams, I don't know what else worse I'm calling with. But I think he played that all right. I would have probably bet the turn though, for value. The pocket fives is an interesting hand. I usually just like folding low pocket pairs under the gun. Usually like raising 8s plus or 7s plus. Depends on the game that I'm playing at. But these 4-ring tables on Minted play a lot like live poker. In live poker, you can go ahead and limp a hand like pocket fives underneath the gun, because no one's going to raise you. They're just going to all limp behind you, and you're going to see this huge multi-way pot with a speculative hand. And if you hit a 5, you win a ton of money. So I'm happy limping here. I think live poker and Minted poker 4-ring are the only times where you should ever be considering limping, like open limping. So don't start open limping. That's really, 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 really bad. This guy that seems loose passive goes ahead and raises, like decently big out of position. So I'm pretty he obviously has a hand, and we're kind of deep with him, and then the fish behind us is deep as well. So it seemed pretty trivial to just go ahead and call there. This spaz guy is spazzing again when I have Queen Deuce off, Queen Deuce suited. If a guy keeps spazzing like that, opening hands like Queen 2 is probably not the best idea in the world. Then he goes ahead and spazzes again, and 9s is like an awesome hand against his range. And he ends up backing into the straight, which is fine. It was a coin flip pre-flop. It's 50-50. That's when the money got in, so that's what the equity was. He ended up getting there, which is it's all right. It sucks, but I got my money in ahead. Ace 10's a pretty easy open. I feel like folding 10 jack offsuit here just because the guy was they're both short stacked. 10 jack offsuit just doesn't do too well. It's two broadways, but like they're not really that good at broadways. I don't know. It's not going to flop that many good hands where I can just feel comfortably stacking off with a short stacker. He's not like that short. He is decently short, but the other guy is only like half stack. So it'd suck having to flop like a jack and then calling it off if a guy like shubs or something. So I just go ahead and fold those. I mean, I didn't put any money in the pot. There was 10 cents in there from my blind, so I'm perfectly okay with that. Ace 10 hand. This guy is loose passive, 65-12. I see bet here basically. I mean, it's essentially for value. I think that there's more hands that call that I beat than call and have me beaten. And on top of that, he might also fold some hands with equity as well. But basically, he's going to be calling with straight draws, flush draws, worse 10x's. He might be bad enough to call with other goofy stuff, but I'm basically gunning for those hands that I just mentioned. The king really sucks because it really hits that range fairly hard. Like 10x and queen x probably aren't betting that turn, but the king just hits everything. So I'm just kind of gonna give up at this point. The king sucks and the flush sucks, and I end up winning. So I put him on something like 10 jack or something like that, but he ended up with like pocket eights, which is super surprising for me. So that's definitely a note to take that he peels third pair and just kind of like checks it down. It doesn't really make too much sense to me. So that's just even more reason why I should be c betting for value on the flop. If you get up against players that basically don't fold, you just need to be value betting nonstop against them. Even with stuff like second pair top kicker and I don't know, just like all sorts of hands, because they'll call with the widest range possible. Like I would never put eights in his range, but I guess they are. So I think that there's just so many hands that will call, and there's so few like queen x hands in his range. The pocket sevens, I just go ahead and pop it up big. My intention is to call it off against the short stacker if he shows. Pocket threes, it's a limp pot and I have a gut shot, but it's five-handed on the flop, so it's gonna be really stupid to just like bet out. And the reason is because like no one's gonna fold. I mean, there's five people. How do I expect all of them to fold? And hitting a 4 is kind of hard, so I really need them to fold. So it's just bad. Check folding is the best play. With the sevens, I just went ahead and c-bet. I was going to stack off on the ace-ace-2 board. If you had an ace, so be it, but I think more likely than not my hand's ahead there. And against this guy who's super spazzy in the bottom left, this is just a spot where I would c-bet normally because I have like a gut shot, 2 overs, and a backdoor flush draw. But in this spot, I'm not going to do it because this is the guy that kept like check jamming, and I don't want to take like all my equity and just throw money in it and fold. So I'm just going to go ahead and check here and see if I can get there. And I ended up hitting a 7 on the turn, which is pretty sick. So now that I have like top pair, top kicker, I'm just going to be going for value here. Like, I mean, if he shipped right here, it'd be really gross. I don't think I can call, but I don't know. I really like my hand against this guy. And then on the river, I just bet big and hope he calls off with who knows what. So he goes ahead and tanks and then calls and shows up with queen high of all hands. So this guy's another one of those guys where it's just like, I don't know what he's doing, but you just gotta value bet pairs against them. Just basically hit pairs and just keep value betting.